Hey, what was wrong with UFC 282 main event? We had two fights go to the distance. We saw 10 fights basically end by finish, one way or another. Submission, knockout, whatever. So what happened with the co-main and the main with Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon? What happened with Ankalaev and Blakovic? And here's the thing, I'll start with the main event. The biggest issue that I saw in that fight was the fact that you had a championship fight with two fighters who needed to extend their rounds to a 5-round fight, who were probably training for a 3-round fight. That was the biggest problem. You can't expect big men, because even if they're fighting at the 205 weight class, they're probably walking around bigger than that. And you can't expect them to all of a sudden just add in new conditioning on a week's notice. And I say a week because that last week going into the fight, they're pretty much doing traveling, press conferences, weigh-in stuff, medicals. They're taking care of the little things. So they're not training, so to speak. And also they're recovering. So they're trying to make sure they don't get hurt by doing too much additional training. So that was the biggest problem that I saw in the main event, in terms of just having that short of a notice. I've not seen that work out unless the guy goes in and finishes it. And that means he's got to do everything he was planning to do over the course of 5 rounds and do it in 1 round. Then with Paddy lost that fight. I'm sorry, Paddy lost that fight. And just goes to show that, UFC and other organizations like it need to be careful with strapping the backpack of marketing behind a guy and just pushing the guy that they want. Take an example from WWE. Early on, Roman Reigns, who is hot now, but early on, the fans rejected Roman Reigns. They did not like him. They booed him even when he was supposed to be cheered. The problem with real fighting is that the fighter still has to really fight. You can write a lot of stories in WWE. You can change the narrative. You can just keep trying every formula that's in the book until people start to like that particular champion. And it'll work. It doesn't work with real fighting because there's always somebody on the other side of that coin, like Jared Gordon, who is going to be a spoiler. And he is coming in to say, you know what? I've been here longer. I need this guy's spot. I'm not ranked, and yet you guys talked about this guy like he's the next coming of Jesus. And he is pissed. And then to see Dana, get on these fighters after the fight, saying, Jared did fight the best fight, wasn't smart, blah, blah, blah. You fight the fight that you fight when you're in it. That's all you can ever do. You fight the fight that you fight while you're there. There's a lot of things going on, and Dana's never fought, so he doesn't understand the emotions and the thoughts and ideas running through your head, and also, the perception. MMA, really combat sports in general, has the worst when it comes to understanding if they're winning the fight or not. They have the worst system. Scoring at the end of the fight. Some people have argued for open scoring. I say, you know what? Fighters need to hold themselves to a higher level of accountability, higher level of criteria and standard, and say, I'm not winning the fight unless these things happen. I think you have to personalize it. You can't depend on external factors. You gotta learn to personalize it. You gotta learn to hit that engagement, let your combo go for the takedown, and train accordingly in the training room. You want to make the judges think that you're trying to win the fight. You need to train accordingly so that your conditioning matches your output and you don't get tired and you have something a little left over just in case things switch up on you. Because the other guy is on the other side of that cage. He is trying to do the same thing. I don't think that happens enough. I think that UFC fosters an atmosphere where you're trying not to lose. You're better off trying not to lose than you are trying to win. And that's because they're so quick to throw guys out of the UFC. I mean, Demetrius Johnson ended up in one championship because they said, we're just going to get rid of a whole division. And then they brought it back. That's how fickle the UFC could be. At one point they didn't want to have women, and now they have women. Women who headline at main event. So you create this environment where the fighters are just on shaky ground. And then you wonder why they fight the way they fight. So I thought Jared Gordon won that fight. I thought he did well against Paddy. I think Paddy was exposed. He just showed that you can market a guy, or a guy can have a lot of skills in one area, but it doesn't make him the most well-rounded fighter. It does mean that other guys can come in and shut him down in one area, and then he becomes exposed. And that's why, if you're going to be a mixed martial artist, number one, be well-rounded. Be well-rounded. I mean, look at Jiri Prochazka against Glover Teixeira. Man, that fight was chaotic all over the place. And that's because Jiri's not a specialist. He just fights. He's all over the place. He's a mixed martial artist. I don't care what you think of his technique. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Bottom line, he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. And that's what it's going to take if you're going to play in that game, play in that world. If you go into jiu-jitsu right now and you don't know leg locks, you're an idiot. You have to know leg locks. And every sport has this criteria. It changes over time, but you have to stay current. You've got to keep up with the times. You've got to be like, you know what? I want to be the best. I want to do everything I need to do, and I'm going to stick to that to be the best, and I'm going to perform and execute. That is it. I didn't think Paddy did that. It's disappointing that he got the win. It shows a lot still needs to happen when it comes to our judging. It needs to be a little bit more consistent across the board, and even in the main event, that needs to be fixed as well, because you could make an argument that Ankalaev actually won the title instead of that fight being a split draw. You can make an argument that he won rounds 1, 4, and 5. But it is what it is. And then what's strange is now they're either out of the picture, and now you're going to put two new guys into that picture. Well, two new guys who never faced one another, put it that way. And what I would like to see, instead of dismissing Ankalaev and Blachowicz, instead of dismissing them, have them come back and fight in a 3-round fight. They were training for a 3-round fight anyway. I thought that if that fight had ended after 3 rounds, that Blachowicz would have won. All right, so have them come back and do a rematch. That it wasn't a bad fight in certain spots, in certain areas. I think what was bad about it was just the amount of time they had to prepare. And that rest of that card was just amazing. I just thought we were going to get a full night of finishes. It would have been amazing. I think they've had 1 or 2 full card finishes, but I don't think they were pay-per-view. I like to see that rematch done again. I think it was an outstanding fight up until Jan just didn't have anything left. Okay, Mad World, that's my 2 cents on UFC 282. I am Coach Sess. You've had words with the Mad Coach.